All right, if you've been in the UVM bookstore, you've probably seen the t-shirt.
Yeah, Vermont football is indeed undefeated since 1974. It's hard to believe it has been 50 years since the Cats last took the field for a varsity game. And while the collective memory of D1 college football here in Burlington faded long ago, the guys who strapped on the shoulder pads that final season have never forgotten.
Just coming down here in the fall and seeing the leaves over in the cemetery, this is a special place for guys that played here. This is one of the, at the time, was one of the finest football fields in New England.
For nearly 90 years, football was a staple of the athletic department at UVM. Competing mainly against regional foes, the Cats were rarely great, but they had their moments. And most importantly, for decades, the team was an avenue for Vermonters to represent their home state on the gridiron.
So there were a few of us that came from the Shrine team up to UVM at the same time, which was nice. But I think most every athlete would like to represent their home state. I'm a Vermonter, so it was great to play for Vermont.
You went up against some pretty good players, and my first impression was, wow, if this is the way it is at Vermont, what's it like at Ohio State?
Brattleboro native Rick Farnham joined the team in 1965, and by 1974, he was an assistant coach on what would turn out to be the last varsity football team at UVM.
I came back here for my graduate work and got an assistantship with Carl Falavine, and this is where I wanted to be.
There was some optimism growing in Burlington in the early part of that 1974 campaign. After the highs of the mid-'60s with Bobby Mitchell had yielded to a series of struggles in the early 70s, the 74 group felt like they had some serious talent and a chance to make some noise in the Yankee Conference.
We were all recruited. The program was doing very well.
I mean, we had kids from the Carolinas, from California, the Northeast, Midwest, and Pennsylvania. So it was just a great environment.
Chief among that talent, their quarterback. Bob Bateman was all-conference, all-region, and even honorable mention All-American. He'd go on to be drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals and was later in camp with the New England Patriots after playing his final collegiate season at Brown.
I sat on the bench in high school, and I was a pretty good student, so I got into a lot of schools, and UVM was the only place that was going to give me a chance to try out for the football team.
The crowning achievement of that team came on October 5th, 1974, when they did something no Catamount squad had accomplished in 20 years.
UVM beating UMass, okay, the #1 ranked team in New England.
We were huge underdogs to UMass my freshman year, and that didn't happen. Came to our sophomore year, we were just not intimidated.
We can almost remember it play by play. We're the underdog. I mean, I don't know, what did UMass have? 30,000 students, and we have 7,000 students.
Well, your mentality is always that we can win, that they were a much bigger program. Individually, we were probably as talented.
I remember that I sang Love Potion #9 on the bus on the way down to try to get everyone, like, we're not afraid of these guys. And we weren't anywhere near as good as UMass, but that day we put it together, and that was really something.
Unfortunately, whatever momentum the program might have been building would eventually be snuffed out. Facing a major budgetary crisis, the university made cuts pretty much across the board. The football team was just the highest profile casualty.
Halfway through, we knew there was a big battle going on with the university in terms of budgets and costs. It's important for a university to put a stake in the ground around academics, and we ended up on the chopping block.
It was pretty devastating, actually. It really was. It was tough to keep everybody up and keep them going, knowing it's going to come to end. I think a lot of us were thinking about next steps.
Even 50 years later, there is some lingering bitterness about the decision and the way it was handled.
You go to Rice, you go to Burlington High School, whatever, you're a football player, you can't go and play for your state university. Why? Because they made a decision 50 years ago.
And the thing that got me more than anything was I was attending the West Point game, 50th anniversary of their great games with Doc Blanchard and Davis inside, outside. About 20 of them came marching across the field, and I started to cry. I've been robbed of that experience.
But most of the guys understand why the decision was made, and they haven't let it detract from their love of the school, the town, and most importantly, their teammates.
I think, like everybody, when you get to this age, you think back and that, first of all, the university was a great place for all of us. We loved the university. We loved the sports program.
We loved the university. We loved the environment. Love the school. I stayed, and just finished out school.
Farnham was one of a couple dozen on hand in late September as members of that final team returned to Burlington to reminisce on the time they spent together and the relationships they built.
It's really a testament to the guys that are here. You're only as good as the team you have around you. 50 years later, we were able to bring these guys back.
Yeah, I haven't seen some of them in a long time, and even people who aren't here, you say, hey, have you talked to Gary Vandekar? How's he doing?
And though football is unlikely to ever return to the UVM athletic department, they hope the legacy of that 1974 team and all the others before it will never be forgotten here in Catamount Country.
The best memories were the friendships that you made, the relationships that you established with upperclassmen, teammates, guys that you went to school with. Those are the memories that count.
This was a celebration of the last 50 years that we put together, and we were very much supported by the Vermont Foundation. It's a good feeling to come back on campus to know that you're remembered.